Noon for crafts. For Crafternoon today, we are going to make stained glass lanterns. And I say stained glass because when we apply the tissue paper, it ends up kind of looking like stained glass on a window. And then inside, you can see we place a candle at the end. So these candles are battery operated. They're turned on. You can't quite see them shining because we've got the lights on in here, but at night you'll have a nice blue-green luminous light coming out of this one. I made a couple of examples just to show you the variety that we can do. Some of them might look a little bit light on your screen because I use light colors on these two. For these two in the middle, the pink one and kind of the blue-green one, you can see how I cut the pieces into small pieces like this. They're all cut different shapes, but they're angular cuts. So rectangles, some triangles, so sharp edges to glue on those, okay? And it doesn't matter, they don't have to all be the same size. That's the beauty of this craft. And then for this example over here, I cut out heart shapes, and this is very pastel color, so it might be a little bit light on your screen to see them. And I cut them out in heart shapes. Here, I'll pull one out so you can see it. Okay, so you can do circles, squares, triangles, any shapes you like, or you can even tear the tissue paper, not a problem. And then take a look at how I positioned them or glued them onto this one. I went from the blue all the way up so that it looks like it's fading away. And I used the same pieces on this particular jar, but I pasted them all over. So you can do any type of pattern that you want, okay? And this one does not have a lid. I've put some Q-tips in it. You can put anything inside them. You can work with jars with lids, or you can work with glass containers without lids. You can incorporate the lids if you like. Take a look at my Halloween one that I did. So this one, you can see I used all orange tissue paper, and then I cut out a face and put it on, but you could also draw the face on there as well. And then I also put tissue paper on the lid, and the lid actually comes off, not glued on, because of course you want to be able to get your battery operated tea light in there. And then you can put the lid on, you can leave the lid off, but these are super fun for Halloween, and you don't have to carve pumpkins, or you can do both. Okay, you can draw right on here, make any kind of a face that you want. Okay, so this is a craft that has a lot of possibilities. Also want to show you, you will notice that I've used chenille stems for the handles for some of these. For other ones, I've used actual wire that I happen to have, but you'll need sharp scissors or wire cutters. So you can also use string or any kind of twine as well. So let's move this out of the way and let's get started. Hopefully you've got all your supplies ready to go. Just gonna pile these on top like that. Today, I'm going to start with my jar. I'm going to use my Mod Podge. I need a plate because I'm going to put the Mod Podge in a plate. I've got a tiny bit of water here in my teapot. So I can dilute the Mod Podge, but you know what? You don't have to dilute it if you don't want to. Works perfectly fine. And what we need to begin with are also a little bit of paper. Okay, so those are the colors I'm going to work with today. And I'm going to show you a trick. Just move this out of the way a little bit. You can still see them, but they're not, but I've got some space to work. So I recommend that you choose your colors, whatever you like, and then you cut them in strips. And you'll notice that my strip is a little bit wide, and that's because I think today I'm going to do circles or ovals. So take a look at this. I've got lots of layers together, then I'm going to fold them again, and then I'm going to feel it. And if I think it's okay for cutting through all of those layers, then that's great. Or maybe I can even double it over again and it's still okay for me to cut through the layers. I think it is. So I'm going to do that. And some people might even do it again. And this just means that you're getting all of them cut kind of in one go. And they're all the same size. Your pieces don't have to be too big because we're really only covering a jar this size. Okay. So I am going to I think I'm going to do this like 3. So you can see how I folded that. When I cut all of these out, I'm going to have lots and lots in there as well. Okay. So just be careful because you see back here, they're not all even. So I'm going to end up with some circles that aren't full circles. They'll be half circles. That's okay. We can always just get rid of them or we can use them because it really doesn't matter if they're all exact or not. You saw my examples in the end, something like this. In the end, it really doesn't matter if they're all perfectly the same size. You won't even notice. Okay, so let's do some cutting. Let me just make sure, see if I can get this evened out a tiny bit better. You could trim them all. Trim this off and then you don't have to worry about all of that. But I don't think I'm folding them very well. So I'm going to flat down and then over and fold. Okay. I'm actually going to do that, trim them. So they're all kind of the same size. Then I had said I was going to do 3. Now that's pretty thick, but I think I can cut through all of that. Okay. So I'm going to do ovals and I just start cutting. Yeah, ooh, that was a little bit thick, but slowly making my way through. We can trim them and fix them a little bit afterwards. Okay, I want to cut this part off as well. Keep going. These will be like Easter eggs maybe. Okay, great. So take a look at all of the ones I've got in here. And you can see there's a fold in there that I didn't quite cut off. So I'm going to go back in and I'm going to trim a tiny bit more to cut that fold off. And then I'm going to shape them so they look a little bit like eggs. I'm going for an Easter theme here. And I might leave it outside and the Easter bunny might fill it with some chocolate for me. There. Great. So now we've got lots in there. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to set them on my plate and I'm going to open them all up. See, I've got 2 that stuck together. Not a problem. We'll simply just trim in the middle. Okay. Check them all. I think I might have the same issue with these blue ones. So for the blue ones, that didn't turn out the way I wanted. So I'm simply going to trim a little bit. There we go. And the others I think did okay. So I've got my light blue, my regular blue, and I've got a pink in there as well. Okay. And I'm going to move my scraps out of the way. Ready to go. So this is where we need our Mod Podge. You can use regular glue as well. You can see that I bought the shiny kind. They have matte, they have all different kinds. Doesn't really matter which one you use. All just fine. And I'm going to squirt some out. And I could use that straight away. I did on a couple of them and it worked just fine, but I'm actually going to add just a couple of drops of water here. Oh, hello, there we go. Not too much. And I'm going to mix it together. So it can be, 1-to-1. Some people like a mixture of 1-to-1 water to Mod Podge or glue. I find that a little bit watery. So I add a tiny bit less water, but there, ready to go. Now that's probably not going to last me. I'm going to have to mix some more up as I get going, but that's okay. We'll do that later. Okay, so I've got all of my supplies. And I am using a foam brush, which works better than a paintbrush, okay? If you have a paintbrush, that is totally fine. Just that with the paintbrush, it wants to brush it, whereas with this, you can dab them on. Now I'm going to turn my jar upside down, okay? And we're going to actually work on the bottom. Nope, sorry, we don't have enough time to do that. So don't work on the bottom just yet. Let me just wipe that off a little bit. We'll come back to the bottom. It is recommended that the bottom is covered. But if we do the bottom, we won't be able to stand it up and put the top on. And I want to show you how to do that before the end of the class. So let's do that later at the very end. Let's go around here. Okay. Oh yeah, I should have mixed up a lot more. And I kind of painted around here. Okay. Not too, don't paint the whole jar because it'll dry by the time you get all the pieces on there. But you can always paint it again if it does dry. Okay, and then this is the fun part. Simply choose your colors and start gluing them on. Let me just get it a bit closer to the top here. Put very much on there.
So for those who are joining us a little late to the live program, what we're doing is we are painting our jars with some glue and pasting on tissue paper shapes, which Dianne showed us how to make a bunch really quickly, but welcome.
Okay. Welcome to all of you joining us. You can alternate the colors. You can make your shapes go either which way. You can put all of the dark colors at the bottom and then work your way up to lighter colors. And then as you go, you're going to go back and pat on some of the Mod Podge or the glue, okay? So this is where sometimes the paintbrush wants to pull on the tissue paper, whereas the foam brush allows us to dab a little bit more. So you can dab it. Now, don't be too afraid. It's going to look white, but all of that white glue and Mod Podge will dry clear, okay? And if you bought the shiny stuff, it will be shiny at the end as well. Okay, so I'm going to alternate. Let's try an alternating pattern this time around. Pink. Okay, and then just keep dabbing it down. Depending on the tissue paper you have, it might bleed a little bit. So sometimes with the water or even just the glue, the color runs. Not to worry. That's what happened on a couple of my other ones, but this one seems to be working fine. Not to worry. You won't even see that in the end. Okay, I need a light blue. And then I need a pink. So the beauty of this craft is that you can save, I better alternate, put another color in there. You don't really need to go out and buy all new things. You can use tissue paper from presents, birthdays or Christmas, etc. Save all of that because as you can see, we've cut up the tissue paper and we're sticking it on. So it doesn't matter if it's wrinkled tissue paper. Okay, so I've got my first layer going on there now, and I need a little bit more. There we go. And also for the jars, you don't need to go out and buy jars. Keep everything, you know, from your groceries, like your spaghetti sauce, if you buy it in a jar, wash them out, keep all of those jars. You know, lots of adults out there with little ones often have a shelf or a room or a bin or a drawer with all kinds of craft goodies in there for rainy days or play dates or sleepovers when you're trying to keep the kids busy. This is super easy for kids to do. Okay, I'm going to start my next my next round. Okay. It is hard to pick up the tissue paper. Okay, so looks like I need to put put my Mod Podge further down on the jar. Okay, there we go.
Hey, Diane, if you don't have glue, what else could you use?
You could probably use, way back when we used to do homemade glue, which was made out of, I'm trying to remember, flour, water, the same kind of stuff that we would use for paper mache. Flour, water. I don't know if we would put salt in that, but flour and water is typically what we would use for paper mache. That will work totally fine.
Yeah, there's a message in the chat that just flour and water equals paste.
Thank you. And it would be, runny, like you would. Don't make dough. Make it runny enough so it looks like glue. So that's another thing too. If you didn't have glue at home, you're looking for something for kids to do, you can whip that up. Okay, so and I am overlapping the pieces of tissue paper as I go along. You can overlap as much as you want. It is entirely up to you. We don't want to layer them and create too many layers of tissue paper because we want the light to be able to shine through, right? So let me just move this over out of the view a bit. So, okay, I've got a little bit of gap in there. So I'm going to put light blue, okay? Great. Hopefully everybody's doing okay. So right now I've been putting the ovals in a vertical way up and down, but I'm getting closer to the top. And if I stick one on, it's going to stick over the edge. So at this point, you've got to make a decision. You're going to layer it further down or you're going to put them horizontally. And it really all depends on what you want to do with the lip. Some people cover that up entirely. You can do that as well. Put them right up there. Remember, we're going to put our pipe cleaners or our chenille stems on there, and we're going to create a handle as well. And it really depends on whether or not you're going to keep your lid on it. Like on my Halloween one, I kept the lid on it. Okay, so entirely up to you. In this case, I'm not going to cover this top part where the lip is. I am going to continue with my vertical positioning of the ovals.
Diane, I attended this really cool class at the library. We did a similar stained glass thing, but they let us cut up old books. You could take, oh, sorry.
Dan, I have seen that actually, and it's beautiful. Oops, I think I put two on instead of one. Oh well. Are you back with us, Dan? Okay. Yes, I have seen all kinds of things. So that is what they often call decoupage, which means to cut out, kind of like a collage, but you're gluing it on, and you won't have the transparency as you get with the tissue paper. But you could easily cover this with photocopies of photographs as well. And it could be like a memento to your family with images of them on it. Or you could do it with, a favorite book that you have. Any images could be glued on here.
That's, yeah, so that now, sorry, I got my audio figured out. So that's what we did. It was, so we got to go into the library and it was old books and magazines that they let us cut out. And because I know Crafternoons is traditionally for a younger audience, but it definitely was like an activity for adults. And we were allowed to paint over the things afterwards and, draw attention to like specific text. Like for me, this activity you could do with like you mentioned, old spaghetti jar, flour and water, and then newspapers, and just how creative do you want to select the content, and what do you want to feature, and what are the themes? But I had a lot of fun. I don't traditionally like or love doing crafts, but I kind of went on a whim, and it was great.
Looks like they converted you, Dan.
Yeah.
That's great. There are so many things to do. I got a deck for the first time in my life last year. And I am so excited about this particular craft because if you put the little tea lights in and then put them outside at night and hang them around your deck, like on, they could be in the bushes or on, if you've got a hedge at the back. These could be super pretty and you could do any kind of color scheme that you like. So I'm excited about making a few more and putting them at, using them at home.
This is an interesting question in the chat. So what's the easiest way to remove labels from the jar? I'll let you speak to it first, but I reuse a lot of jars at home, so I got some.
You've
But
got
you
some
go ahead,
tips
Diane.
as
Yeah.
well. Well, it really depends on what kind of glue they or adhesive they've used to put the labels on. Some of them come off really easily, and I simply pour hot water in them and then put it like in a larger container and put hot water around it, and then the labels will pop right off. Sometimes I have to put them into the dishwasher to help out, but there are certain brands where it's really hard. You have to pick them off, and then you've got to scrub that extra layer of pulp off. So it takes a little bit of muscle power, elbow grease, I should say, to do that. I don't know if Dan.
So I play golf, and when I come home from golfing, I usually like take this little steel tool to the clubs to clean out all of the dirt and stuff that gets stuck. So it's in my utility sink, and whenever my wife or I finish a jar, we run it under hot water, and we take that like steel brush against it, and it comes off very, very easily. And after like toiling with it for some time, we used to just like burn your hands under hot water trying to push
Yep.
off the goo with your thumb. But I found that little steel brush works wonders.
Might even work with those, very stiff plastic brushes, right? Okay, so far I'm right here now and I haven't done the bottom, but we are going to do the bottom. The reason why I didn't do it is because I want to be able to set it up like this to show you how to put the decoration or the handle around the top. So is everybody doing okay so far? You're set to go. Okay, super. I'm going to set it like this. Now it might, I put paper down today. It might stick a little bit to the table. That's okay. We'll clean up afterwards. So as I was mentioning, the easiest thing to do is to use chenille stems, and they are right here. And, just as long as the opening on your jar is not bigger than, than your chenille sticks wrapped around in a circle. So move this one out of the way. So yeah, I have plenty of room there. And what I want to do is to put the handles kind of evenly. So I kind of mark it with my hands like that, or my fingers, then I take it off and I do like two little bends. So I kind of know where the handles are going to go. And then this other stick or stem is going to be the handle. And I simply bend it slightly like I would, like it, as if it were a handle. And then I turn it up vertically and I am going to attach it to these two corners right there. Okay. So I take this and I simply twist it on a little bit. Oops. Go. Okay. And then I've ended up with something like this. And I bend this other one around, twist it on to that other corner. Okay, so we have something kind of three-dimensional that looks like this. I'll move it around so you can see. Okay, There it is. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to wrap it around the top of the jar. This way. And then I simply twist as tight as I need to make it stay on. Okay, super simple. So that's just one twist. Just want to show you what it looks like. And I'm going to twist a couple more times just to be sure. Okay. Now you can trim these off if you like, or you can put them, make them go in one direction, or you can actually curl them if you have a pencil to curl them around. My brush is a little bit thick, but if I curl them like that, I'm going to do one curled up, one curled down. Okay, so there we go. You can see I've got some little twists and curls there. And you can also, if you want to cover up the rest of the glass that's showing there, you can wrap it first or you can wrap it afterwards. I brought some yarn here, kind of matches the colors that I'm working with. I'm going to take some yarn and I'm going to just kind of wrap it around the top, make it look nice. There we go. So I've doubled the yarn a few times. Okay. Let's see if it'll stay. Maybe I should have braided it. Okay. And I'm simply going to tie it right here in front. Okay, pull it snug and then tie it again to create a knot. Okay, so I've got something that looks like that. It's a little bit wet, but I'll put it on its side. And then I'm going to trim here. You can trim as short or long as you like. Okay. There we go. Okay. And then I'll pull it down over top. So this covers a little bit of the top of the jar, makes it kind of look tidy and pretty. Okay. Great. So remember, we have to do the bottom yet. Looks like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bend the handle slightly and put it back down. Okay. It's all good. Then I'm going to go back and just finish the bottom. So normally I would do the whole thing and I would let it dry. And then an hour later, even just half an hour later, I'd come back and I'd do the top of it or put the yarn around it. But I wanted to be able to show you today. Now, before I do that, I see a couple of them popping off. I think it's because I laid it on its side. So I'm going to stick those down again. Okay, here we go. Turn it that way. Okay, and just finish off the bottom. Mod Podge and glue dry quite quickly. Okay. And then dab on top and around. Okay. So putting my hand in it so I can show you what it looks like. Okay. So far. Oops, did I miss a spot? Possibly. No, I think that's got light blue on it. Can always add another one on if you did miss a spot. Sometimes you won't notice until it's dry. That's when you'll be able to see if there's anything missing. Okay. Okay. Great. So I'm going to set it here. If you are working with, let me just set it on this so it doesn't stick quite as much. If you're working with wire, that is totally fine as well. You're going to do exactly the same thing with your wire. So I have some here. This is very thin wire. You simply pull out enough to fit around the top of the jar and then use your scissors or wire cutters. Careful with your scissors though, because you could damage them and then they won't cut nicely afterwards. So use your wire cutter to cut off a piece. And then when you go around the jar once again, here's a fresh jar to show you. When you go around the jar once again, put your fingers exactly where your other piece of wire is going to go, okay? And then just take it and do like a little bit of a bend, okay? There. Then cut another piece of wire. This is going to be the handle part. This is very thin wire. I can't even remember the gauge that we bought, but super thin, very bendable as you can see. And I am going to cut that with my wire cutters. You can buy wire cutters in craft departments and of various stores, not very expensive. Okay, same deal. I'm going to prop it up and then I'm going to hold it up like this. And then this is the tricky part. It is easier with chenille sticks for sure, but then you've got to twist it around, okay? Then you're going to take the other one and you're going to twist it around this one as well, where you bent it on the other side. The chenille sticks, because it has a little bit of fiber on it, it really holds it in place. Whereas as you can see here, it's going to slip around, okay? Not to worry, once we get it on the top of the jar, we can secure it enough so it won't shift too much, okay? It's just a matter of pulling it as tight as possible. So I've got these other two in this hand. I've got them pulled as tight as possible, and I'm simply going to twist. And the tighter I twist them together, the more it will secure the handle, okay? So you can see what I did there with very thin wire. If that happens to be what you have at home, you can do it that way. And then you have to be careful because this is kind of pokey. So you've got to trim it off and then make sure, oops, got the wrong way, make sure it's like tucked in. Okay. There we go. Oh, lots of Mod Podge on my hands. Yeah, you just need to tie it in. And then this is where it's helpful to cover that with string or yarn, whatever you happen to have. And it's kind of beneficial that this still can move slightly. The handles can still move slightly, so you can be sure to get them in the middle so that when you're hanging it, it's not lopsided kind of thing. So that's how you can do it if you happen to have wire at home instead of chenille sticks, not a problem. Or you can also do string or twine. Got another one I can demonstrate as well. Same deal. It's just a little trickier because you can't bend your string at the points, but it's okay. As long as you tie on your other string, you'll be able to shift it around a little bit. It's just a little trickier to work with. But then when you tie your string super tight around, it will secure your handles more or less in the spot. It might shift a little bit, but you can get this string around here pretty darn tight, and then you won't have the handles moving around. So those are some options, and you can use twine or you can use yarn as well. So once you're ready and once you've made the whole collection of lanterns that you want to make for your patio or for wherever, I'll keep it on here so it doesn't stick to the paper on the table. You're ready to put your tea light in. Tea lights look like this. You can buy them at all kinds of craft stores. Mine's a little fancy from Christmas time. And on the bottom, there's a switch because it's battery operated. Some people don't like having candles in their homes. So this is a good alternative. That just goes right in the middle. And then at nighttime, you can't see, but it is turned on. At nighttime, it will illuminate and you will have a lantern. Okay, so there you go. You're ready to go. You can make as many as you like, hang them up, give them as gifts. You can even put plants in them, like little, plants, like falling plants, the leaves that grow downwards. Those are lovely as well. And you can use any kind of glass container that you happen to have, any kind of jar, shape or form. You can see this one on my jack-o'-lantern. You can see some of the lettering because it was a mason jar underneath. Doesn't matter, just glue right over top. Okay, so those are some of our creations today.
Does anyone in the live program have any questions for Dianne before we let her go? Okay, so thank you so much, Dianne. Just a reminder for viewers that we are off to next week for March break, and we'll return with Crafternoons on March the 23rd.
And we're going to be doing some weaving.
We're going to be doing some weaving. Okay. Okay, well, thank you all so much for joining us. And Dianne, as always, thank you for sharing your craft ability. I'm just going to make sure we can see you so you can say goodbye. Oh, there you are. Thank you, everyone. Have a very wonderful, this is so cheesy, but a wonderful Crafternoon.
Have a nice evening, everyone. See you next time.